Almost forgot. The executive summary will be the critical issues, your recommendations based. Remember that the executive summary is a synopsis of the overall marketing plan. It should provide an overview of the plan, including goals and objectives, strategy elements, implementation issues, expected outcomes. Remember, the executive summary is extremely important. It is generally the last thing that you write, and realize this is going to be your marketing tool for the higher up executives to convince them on the worthiness of what you're doing and the desire to be able to engage this particular strategy. The second section is the overview, in which I wish you to have a brief history on the company that you choose as it is described in the case. The cases, I'll show you the list in a minute, but the cases are very up to date. So there is not the need to think too much in history and put yourself in the moment in history where that is, but it's a good idea to do that, all right? So just brief history. It doesn't have to go on forever and ever again, and describe some of the critical issues that have come about in its history and their pertinence, especially to the case. Especially those that require substantial resources in order to address. The next section is, of course, the SWOT analysis. And this is just kind of a brief overview of the SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, and the opportunities and threats. That the SWOT analysis, based upon what you have read and your additional reading, which you will do additional reading on the corporations, have brought to light as well. The next is your competitive advantages. What are the strengths that your firm can match to the opportunities to create capabilities? And remember, the capabilities are things that your business does that matches your consumer needs. That's a capability. Are they grounded in any of those three things that we talked about? Operational excellence, product leadership, or customer intimacy? Where are they in that particular area? Can you convert weaknesses into strengths or threats into opportunities? Does the firm possess any major liabilities that can't be converted? And are these liabilities and limitations apparent to our customers? And can the firm do anything about this? Now, I don't expect all of these button issues to be thought of, but I want you to think of these things while you're putting these things together. Then finally, what is the strategic focus? Is it in a particular direction? Remember, aggressiveness, diversification, turnaround, defensiveness, or niche. Which one of those 5 strategies, based upon our assumption that we built from the SWOT analysis, are we going to be an aggressive firm? And if we're going to be an aggressive firm, then what are the goals and objectives that we need to go through in order to implement that plan? This can also be a discussion of the 4 Ps as well, although it isn't listed here. Now, if you notice, I do not list implementation and control. Don't need that. I want to be able to just see these things and then just conclude with the objectives, the estimated time frame, and what is going to be your measurement for success and failure. Remember, one of the things about what you're going to do also is you're going to try to capture, in essence, what is the advantage that this particular corporation brings to the consumers that it deals with. What is that uniqueness? And the other thing about this is beware of target fascination, once again, on the products that we make. Let's remember the lessons that marketing myopia brings us. And each of these corporations bring outstanding products, but remember that these are all need-satisfying benefits that the consumers consider valuable. put our minds in the consumer. In its raw essence, what does it bring to me? That's the thing that's important for you. And that's the thing that ultimately decides where you're going to decide how to bring or what advantages to bring, okay? So this is what I wish to present. As I said, it's a PowerPoint slide. You can record it, you know, in whatever way you wish to record it. Zoom is the easiest way. You can all be in different locations. Remember, you can all take control of Zoom. By the way, I don't even know if you know this, but the professional version of Zoom, which we have, can have up to 500 users online at any one time, okay? The upstream technology is pretty robust. And you, each of you, as a student here at App State, you have the options, or you use the same version I did. So, hey, if you want to get together your group online, use it while you got it, okay? All right. Any questions? Good. Okay. Any questions that you might have, please send them on to me. Yes. Your own case. Okay. Yes.
Are the cases on as we're right now?
They are in the back of your book, this book and marketing strategy. All right. Thank you for saying that. And the cases that you have to choose from are listed here. These are the cases that I ask for you to choose. How do you get to choose it? It's first come, first served. I would like you to list me your first option, your second option, and your third options, okay? Each one of these contains some unique issue or issues that they're all dealing with. And I would like for you, in your group, as quickly as you can, decide and send me an email. Like I said, it's first come, first served, all right? I would like for you, if you could, since time is of the essence, make a choice in your group by this afternoon, if you can, so that we can get the lineup settled up and you can work with your groups and get this done. At the end, I would also like a bibliography of the outside reading that you did. Bibliographies mean more points. It's as simple as that. Your external reading to me is just as valuable as anything else you do. If you look inside your book is an excellent source, by the way, of outside readings for each one of these cases as well. I told OC, this is the best book he's ever read, okay? Except for the chapter on channels. But you didn't ask me, so how do I want you? Let's see. How do I want you to do your bibliography? I want you to do it in APA style. And in case you've never done this before, let me show you a quick down and dirty way of doing it in Word. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen this, but if you go to Word, you click on References, there is a button here called Manage Sources. And this is a great way to do bibliography. So this is how you do it. Click New. If it's a journal article, go to Journal Article. Where it says Authors, click Edit. So you put in the last name. You add them. Okay. You have the ability, if you want to swap them back and forth, you can do that. You click OK. You type in the journal article. Okay. Oops. Year is going to be valuable. you will find now that most pages are going to be extremely important as well, okay? So pages are important. You're going to find now that most journal articles, if you're going to be doing it, have gone away from the month and the day. And what you find is volume and issue is how they have these things done now. So let me just add one more there just to show you. So, lot of Rambo, okay? And let's see. Since the Journal of Rambo never lasted long, okay? So now watch, we've got 2 articles there. You click close. Now, watch. You go to bibliography, you do insert bibliography, and it's formatted for you. It's all done for you. See, you had a reason coming today. What if you wanted to go from APA style, which I want, to Chicago style? Just click on it, it'll do it for you. Okay. If you ever get into doing dissertations like I had to do, and you've got 14 pages of bibliography and they need to be sorted alphabetically, which they do, this is a lifesaver. Okay. So easy enough. Just take this, copy it and paste it into your PowerPoints on the last slide. You're good to go. Okay. All right. So everybody got what we're going to do. Next Monday will be our test, chapters 5, 7, and 10. Tuesday through Thursday is freestyling. I'll be in Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday, 10 o'clock at night, the deadline, send me your recorded case, okay? Oh, and make sure you share with me your copy of your PowerPoints, and I'll get them graded hopefully and have to you by the end of the day. All right, let's go on.
To confirm, 26 unit is the exam.
Let's bring it up. Yes, 26 is the exam. The 28th will be when I will not be here, but the class will be open if you wish to use it. But the 27th, 28th, 29th will be the days that you'll freestyle. Whether you're here with your group or whether you're in the student union, I'll be sitting in here on Tuesday and Thursday. If you want to sit out there and come in and ask me questions, I'm open and available, okay? Oh, and 30th will be, I will open the test, the finals optional test, and it'll be open from 12:01 a.m. in the morning till 11:59 at night, okay? On 30th, okay, just so we have that clear. All right, super. Okay, so without further ado, let's move on. And we're going to tackle chapter 5. Segmentation, targeting, and positioning is where all of the think work happens in marketing. All right. The busy work, the artistry, the skill, all of the things that you need to put together, both your knowledge and your expertise. This is where marketers cut their teeth. This is, you know, the 4 Ps are actually part of what's called marketing management. I've talked about this. Jerome McCarthy in 1960, in his very first book, was the one person who kind of brought all 4 Ps together. And he put it under a book called Marketing Management. And the truth is, yes, because managing happens at the 4P level, but all of the strategic processes that happen in marketing as a discipline happen before that. And so one of these is this, the segmentation and target marketing of your customers, okay? And so if we go back to the first definition that we had, the market, I love the definition of market, and I'm a firm believer always in the value of the market. The market is the last free place that we can go out and bargain with. The market determines a lot of things. The market determines the value of your goods because the goods are freely valued in the exchange with the consumers, and the consumers are the one who put price tags on everything. All right. Babe Ruth in 1926 demanded $150,000 a year. 1926, nearly 100 years ago, 150,000 years for his particular work as a baseball player. And the owner of the Yankees at that time said, "You think you're worth 3 times more than the president?" And Babe Ruth said, "Yeah, why not? I had a better year." Okay. Well, that's pretty much where the market works. The market determines your success or failure. And if you succeed in the market, you have succeeded in something that's truly great. You didn't coerce anybody. You haven't twisted arms or anything. You've gone out there and presented a value that consumers looked at and desired. And so a market is a collection of buyers and sellers meeting freely together, implementing exchange, hopefully for the success of both sides. In this chapter, we're going to focus on the buyers. I will not focus on business buying because there is an entire category of class called B2B marketing. And I believe for the basics, I think this covers just about everything that you want. And so if we think of the market as a collection of buyers and sellers, then we have, based upon our assets, we attempt to reach either the entire, everyone that's in the market, or we try to look for a smaller group, or we may only look at an individual one at a time. If we want to be able to do this right, we have to have an understanding of the consumer buying process, and understand things like wants, needs, and what motivation is, and what is the behavior of our consumers. In the 70s, when I was getting my undergraduate degree, the chair of my department was a psychiatrist. He was the first psychiatrist to be the chair of a marketing department in the United States, Dr. Ivey, God bless him, still alive. But one of the things that is that you found in the 70s, the whole concept of consumer behavior overtaking marketing, which is good because we've used psychology for generations and we knew good ideas when we could steal them. And so we brought psychology in and it enhanced our understanding of the consumers. And so just to give you an idea, these are some of the things that we know. The interesting thing is that Facebook has been in some ways not abandoned by younger individuals, but this seems to be the place where the Gen X's and the boomers are, which is where we are, okay? And we find that these segments are unique and special of us. And if we want to be able to spend time with these consumers and sell to them, we have to know where they are. And so this is kind of this idea of how social media has segmented us and where we go to try to find those unique individuals. So if we're looking for the market segment, or let's just say, if we're looking for recruiters for our particular jobs, what social media site do we use? LinkedIn, thank you very much. Yes, we use LinkedIn. My nephew got a job that way. It's vital that we understand these things because that's where we need to go to be in the market where our buyers are. So let's talk about buyer behavior in the consumer markets, okay? So don't target fascinate on this slide because we're going to explain this a little bit later. What this is to discuss and realize is that the consumers are on a journey, okay? There are stages in the consumer journey towards ultimately making a decision to purchase. And what we're going to talk is about the 5 stages that we use. There's 6 in some, but we're going to use 5 for test purposes of the issues and stages that are going about in the consumer decision-making process. And we'll talk about all of this bottom stuff in a minute. So let's talk about the first. The first is, it starts with, excuse me, swipe over, thank you, need recognition, all right? The need recognition is the start of the consumer purchase process. And what we have, or what we desire, is that the consumer is triggered by something that makes them realize that in their actual state, there's a difference between their desired state. And the strength of this trigger is what we call motivation. How strong is the trigger? So there's two types of triggers that consumers have. We have internal stimuli, hunger, thirst, exhaustion. These are the internal triggers that make us recognize that there's a difference between our actual state and our desired state. External stimuli is what marketers attempt to bring through advertising, the consumer window shopping, talking to salespeople. We hope to generate the decision-making process, and starting with the recognition that the needs and the wants are not currently satisfied. Now, the needs are the things that bring the initial recognition that we are not in our desired state. And if we can trigger the need recognition, all to the good. But it's the wants, remember, the wants are for something specific, spit it out, Dave. The want is for something distinct that is ultimately what segments markets. The want of something specific. And so the need triggers a want, and we segment by the wants. Remember, this need recognition trigger is always going to be the difference between your actual state and your desired state. And this is what a need is. Just realize that a need and a want is not a demand. Demand is something very specific. All right. A demand is the willingness to purchase along with the capability of doing so. So I might really desire a Maserati Countach, but I sure don't have the money for it. One of the great examples in 1974 was there was an Instamatic camera. Before we had digital cameras, cameras were either where you had to take film to a film processor, and if they were good ones, in 24 hours, you'd get your film back, pictures, or you have what were called Instamatic cameras. Instamatic cameras actually still exist. Fujifilm still does them. But in 1974, Polaroid bet the farm on doing what was called the Polaroid SX70 land camera. And it was actually pretty cool. It folded flat. It was in a clamshell. You could lift it up. It had an automatic sensor for light and also for distance as well. And it had a packet of 12 films, which after you took the picture, it would spit it out. And in a minute, you'd have your picture. Brilliant stuff. My dad actually had one. Okay. Here's the problem. Purchase priced it at $249. And this is in 1974 dollars. If you were to translate it now, we're talking around $900 for a camera. They knew fully well that the average consumer was willing to buy it at $99. And what happened was after 18 months, the product languished. They basically started selling them for half that price. Then they also came out with a version that was just basically a plastic model that did not have all some of the unique features at $99. Guess what it sold? This is the difference between needs, wants, and demands. And it's important to understand you don't have demand if the consumer doesn't have the ability to purchase it. And so we start with a need recognition. The next thing we have is what's called the consideration set. So the needs usually start getting translated into particular products or brands. And so you look at the bundle of benefits that the consumer is desiring, and these are what are considered the framework of what they're looking for at that particular time. So when I got tenure, I wanted to purchase a 75-inch Samsung QLED, and I got my wife to say yes before she ever saw how big it was. I needed to get the yes first, okay? Now she loves it. You know, we've got a home theater now. She's like, oh, this is great. So sometimes you need to be able to push ahead. So anyway, I obsess over characteristics. It's one of the things I do. I was an IT guy. I mean, I started in the computer industry in the 80s. I spend far too much time looking over these things over and over again. And I actually wanted the 75-inch television first, and the things and the desires I wanted translated into either Samsung or LG. And the ironic thing was, is it came down to is that I could get the Samsung, but I couldn't get the LG. That's ultimately where it came down. So my consideration set were all those 75-inch televisions, all right? I evaluated each one of those particular products as a portfolio and its ability to satisfy all my personal needs. And so hopefully what I was doing was I was translating those things down into what I considered packages that I considered worthy of purchase. Now, the initial consideration set is all of those particular brands in which you're aware of. It isn't the evoked set, which is something different. When I evaluate my purchases, when I'm looking at those particular items that I want, I'm in what's known as the information search area, and I'm looking at all of those particular things that I consider worthy of consideration. So one of the things is this is where industry leaders come in. This is where influencers start to influence. One of the things that we know, of course, about influencers now is the danger of an influencer taking money from a corporation to sell their product. Now, when it's done in the open, okay, it's easier for you to be able to evaluate it because you understand everything's on the table, this person's getting money for it. If somebody is under the table getting money, we classify them as a shill. In other words, they're basically speaking the glory of this and hiding the fact that they're getting paid for it. The best of all, of course, are those influencers who don't need the money, that based upon their own personal valuations, they think it's simply the best. So how much time do I spend on making these particular kinds of valuations? It depends on risk. Risk personally, socially, financially, all of those things are important. It also comes to your experience in a particular product category as well. So IT is one of those things that I've obsessed on for a long time. I've been away for quite a while, and I needed to build. I also do videos. I have a YouTube channel that I work with, and I work with a Friday night scoreboard show in Mississippi. I needed a better machine. I'm out of the loop for at least a decade, and in computer times, that's a lifetime. So I asked a friend of mine where I should look. He directed me to a site called Build Redux. And what Build Redux will do will take all of those particular items that you consider to be important, put them all together, and we'll build them and test them for you for 99 bucks. That's a value to me. I mean, if anybody's ever built, I used to build PCs myself. If anybody wants a pain in the neck, it's build your own PCs. That's like a lifetime of worry. And the fact that they would do that meant that the risk of that particular purchase was dramatically lowered because someone guaranteed it for me. So it's also important to understand that the cost of the search becomes important as well. And the cost of the items takes time for us to evaluate as well. So that's one of the things we'll talk about in a minute, of those other things that can evaluate or change our particular purchase. We take that consideration set and we narrow it to the evoked set. And the evoked set is only those in pieces that we consider worthy of purchase. Then finally, we have the moment of purchase. And even then, we can be influenced one way or another, all right? Two of the major influences that we can have is product availability, especially in now. And one of the bigger ones is possession utility. So remember that possession utility is the ability for the corporation to quickly get the goods in your possession. All right, that is what possession utility is. This can be financing. It can be many, many things, but it usually comes down to financing. And if possession utility, all it means is that I can sign my name online, they'll do the financing for me, then that has much greater value to me than me having to go to a bank and trying to line these things up. And so the moment of purchase ultimately comes down to that last point. One of the things that Coca-Cola, as a frame in the 40s, when they started to come out with vending machines, is they always used to say that we want you to be within an arm's length of your desire. And so one of the things that Coca-Cola did was they started vending machines, and the vending machines came everywhere. And it was ubiquitous after a while. And I think I've talked about this before. There was quite a bit of discussion with supermarkets on Coca-Cola because they were saying they were stealing sales from people walking in the supermarket. And what Coca-Cola did was to have them understand that the people who buy a Coke in front of the supermarket are an entirely different market segment than the individuals who go in the supermarket. And they were able to get away with it. And they were right. The last is post-purchase evaluation. It is vital for us to always consider what the post-purchase evaluation of a consumer is, because we must always think of our customer base as a leaky bucket. Customers are always leaving us, always going somewhere else, always reevaluating their first purchase. You hope that your consumers are what's called the loyalty loop. The loyalty loop is a previous purchase in which customers were satisfied that makes the next purchase that much easier. And then the purchase or the product you have may have a lot of opportunity costs, or let's just say the what it costs to switch brands can be pretty extensive as well. So these are the four categories when it comes to whether or not you succeed in your purchase. And this is why satisfaction has become one of the more difficult things to be able to measure. So delight is exceeding a consumer's expectations. So this was, I'm very happy my wife had lowered expectations on the machine because she loves it now. Okay. So do my daughters. That's how all of her friends come up. Dissatisfaction is when you fail to meet expectations. And it is important to note that dissatisfaction and satisfaction, like I said before, are not two polar opposites, because satisfaction is meeting the consumer's expectations. Satisfied. It's a very bland, passive emotion. It's just, okay, you hit all the check marks. Great. Okay. Whereas hopefully what we're doing is we're creating delight, which is succeeding. And the last is cognitive dissonance, which is one of the ones that Dr. Ivy talked about very early, is when you're unsure of whether the goods have met or exceeded your expectations. Cognitive dissonance can actually be pretty good, because cognitive dissonance requires you to do one or two things in your mind. It either forces you to fix a category or fit you in an existing category where you are, or put you in your own category by itself. This is one of the things that Apple does remarkably well, is they create cognitive dissonance in consumers' minds. It doesn't fit the PC category. So what do? Well, with Apple, it is the blue ocean strategy. It becomes a unique and special place in consumers' minds, and we want to be known for having that. And so this is the 5 processes, and this is kind of the decision journey. So you start out with the need and the desire. You have those initial set of brands that you have the initial consideration set. If you notice, you have that loyalty loop, which can make the journey shorter because you've already satisfied in your own mind that this meets or exceeds your expectations as a brand. So the consumer does not need to do as much information gathering as they did on an initial purchase. And so the consumers add or subtract the brands that they want. And then ultimately the consumer selects the brand at the moment of purchase. And then the consumer decides whether in their own mind, whether it meets or exceeds expectations. Along with those things, what can affect the journey? So who are my first-time home buyers or my mortgage buyers here? Okay, yeah, there you are. Okay. Complex decisions that have high personal and social and financial risk require a great deal of information. As Cassiope and Petty said, there are those that have a need for cognition who wish to make those choices, but even if you don't, you're forced to go into the central route where you must process in order to be able to make your choices. And the complexity of those decisions many times make the choices for us. The next is our own personal individual differences, my lifestyle, where I am in my particular journey, all right? My own perceptions and attitudes about the way that I think about particular items. My father was firmly a believer in American cars, even though he bought Mitsubishis, but that was his particular differences. Social differences have to do with the culture that you live in, the subculture. You know, whatever you have in those days, your reference groups, all right? So how many out here after they get out of school are going to go buy a minivan? Nobody? Of course you wouldn't buy a minivan, all right? Not your group. Usually the first big purchase you're going to make after you complete a certificate or any of that particular type is you go buy a vehicle. It's one of those first things you do. but none of you are going to be caught dead around your friends driving a minivan. It ain't going to happen. All right. And so the social risks that go along with buying that far outweigh whatever advantages a minivan would have. My daughter's asking for a minivan. I'm like, are you kidding? You got an SUV, you got a Highlander. What else do you want? She said more. Okay. Yeah, more. The last is situational influences. We are influenced dramatically where we are and what we live around. The personal things that are happening at the moment that we're having to purchase. In my dissertation, I wrote about retail atmospherics, which are how places can make us relax and feel better. I wrote also, I did part of my research on the way that casinos are built, which one is called the crane model, which uses large, wide open spaces that make it more relaxing for the consumers inside of those particular buildings. Also with that, the problem with time poverty that we have now, we have less and less time to be able to make decisions. And so we have to make decisions based upon momentary things. And finally, we have to realize that people shop in groups. Especially we have to take those things in advantages. So anyone has shopped with anyone for wedding dresses? I don't know. Okay. So did you go with friends? Okay. I'm just kind of guessing how many. I'm just yeah, and that's a general size of the group, 4 to 5. Was it Dave's bridal, just a guess, or?
It was.
Okay, there you go. Right. So did they have mirrors all the way around? Did they serve you, wine or champagne or anything like that? Yeah, yes, of course. All of those things. The desire to get into that, it's a very natural thing, and it's the situational influences that make it so much easier for you. My wife, by the way, bought 4 dresses. So apparently at that time, yeah, instead of like $2,000, she's very buyer conscious, so like $300 or $400 each. She bought one to take pictures in, one to get married in, one to go jump in the ocean. I think that's what was going on at that time, and I don't know what the 4th one was for. Okay, so I wasn't buying them; she was. So knock yourself out. Okay. So I went through all of these just to go through them again. Decision-making process that require high complex decisions that have social or financial risk, coupled with your own lack of experience. If they're a low complexity, low involvement kind of thing, a routine purchase, we use peripheral cues to make our choices. So as I said, color and shapes become important to us when it comes to making those choices. And we need to be able to understand what the past buyers are saying, because ultimately that helps us shape how we're able to buy later. So I talked about the individual differences of lifestyle and occupation. I talked about the social influences, culture and subculture. So I thought I would show you this just a second while we're talking about social influences. So where is it? Yeah. So apparently you go to war here over your mayonnaise. Okay. So it's like, if you don't like Duke Energy or Duke, excuse me, or whatever, what is it? Is it Duke's Mayo? Okay. Yeah. So apparently if you don't like Duke's Mayo, you're a social outcast. Okay. So, where I grew up from, it's Blue Plate mayonnaise. Okay. So Blue Plate, if you can't get Duke's, just try it. Okay. I'm not going to war over it. I'm just saying this is where I grew up. This was my cultural influence. And I will say this, there's a very similar formula there. It's got to be, because you have that same kind of tang. And yes, I like Dukes, but I'm not going to put my Dukes up over Dukes. Okay. So anyway. Yeah, crazy. You even have a bowl game after it. Wow. Okay. So, and then finally, situational influences, which are atmospherics, time, social, the task or product usage, and the consumer disposition at the time, the stresses that we go through as well. Especially, I think the worst stress we have right now simply is that we don't have time to make choices anymore. even though some choices have to be evaluated. Now, at some point, you got to hold your breath and make a choice, but that may be the worst of all. So we're going to skip over buyer behavior in business markets. And we're going to talk about market segmentation. Okay. So how do we segment our markets once we decide on the segment that we're going to, or in segmenting? How do we go about dividing that market up? Well, there's multiple ways that we want to do it, but realize that segmenting means that the members have similar likes, desires, needs, wants, and preferences. And the big decision, of course, is whether to segment at all. But most firms opt to choose more than one market. And the reason why is quite simply is we don't have the resources to go after everyone. There is no unlimited budget, no matter what we might think. And we're all under the pressures to be able to make money for our stakeholders, regardless of whether we can reach a market that just simply isn't ours to reach. And so we're going to talk about these one at a time: mass marketing, differentiated marketing, and niche marketing. And yes, differentiated and niche are different. So it seems rather bizarre to say that that no segment whatsoever is a segment, but it is. Okay. Mass marketing treats the entire audience the same. It assumes all the customers in the market have similar needs and similar wants, and only one single marketing program is needed. There are many things that are required for mass marketers in order to be successful. One of them is quite simply is that that particular product is desired the same by all. And that the product in itself is ubiquitous. In other words, there's really no inherent differences in the segment. The need is in essence the same. Coke. You know, Coke is a mass merchandise product because the desire to quench a thirst is the same no matter what market segment you are. You don't have to describe, by the way, what it does. And that's usually why you have informational cues when it comes to making commercials. And generally what you have are lifestyles where people are gathered together having a Coke. Duracell batteries, all right? Duracell batteries are usually segmented by their particular size, okay? So AA, AAAs, Ds, Cs, 9 volts, all of those. And the market is in essence toys and consumer electronics. But the message is the same, okay? The advantages is it's a low marketing cost because you're using all of the standard mass marketing techniques. You don't have to properly define your segments in unique ways. But the difficulty is competitions can respond to that and find niches that you can't satisfy. And then ultimately you can't pursue them, or you don't pursue them, because what happens is that if you move from the mass marketing segment to a specific one, basically the opportunity cost, it becomes very inefficient to do it that way. And so the mass marketing comes down to the products that you're going to sell. Differentiated marketing is the one that you find the most. Differentiated marketing is when you divide groups of customers with homogeneous needs. The way that you think of this also is consider that the groups have to be thought of as everything that they are and nothing that they are not. And so you build very extensive descriptions of these particular markets. You can actually think in your own mind what this particular consumer looks like. And so when I did the bicycle thing up here, if you'll remember, I talked about people who would use it for transportation, who would use it for recreation, those people who would use it on their jobs, those people who use it in competition, and realize that just with a good marketing message, you could take the same bike and appeal to multi-segments. Usually the most efficient is going to be working on multiple segments, usually around the same category. And this would be like Arm & Hammer. So one of the interesting things about Arm & Hammer baking soda, all right? I mean, how many different ways can you do baking soda? Well, the truth is there's actually lots of reasons the way that you could do it. Arm & Hammer in the 30s and 40s was used for baking and for nothing else. However, there were residual users by, people. Arm & Hammer found that there were a lot of other things that you can do. How many has Arm & Hammer a baking soda box inside their refrigerator? Oh yeah. They started making boxes just for refrigerators so that you could keep open and absorb odors, all right? Arm & Hammer makes toothpaste. Arm & Hammer is used for baking. Arm & Hammer is used for cleaning. And so this is a multi-segment approach in which the same product is used in multiple markets. The next is marketing concentration, in which you focus on a single market with a product line. And so you focus all your resources towards one single market, and you pay attention to that market, because if the market changes, you're in a fix. You've got to be able to know what's going on in that market yourself, because you're vulnerable when people make changes, right? I can think of a simple external one. If if something in their chemicals was found to be cancer causing or just something like that, they would need to make an immediate change. Otherwise, they would be in big trouble, okay? So marketing concentration. Marketing concentration is different from niche marketing, because niche marketing is one defined market segment that has very unique and specific needs, but it has a lot of potential. It has to be very highly specialized. For those of you men who don't like gray hair, not me, Just for Men is actually a single product line that has only one focus, and that's to make your hair darker. That would be an example of niche marketing. The trouble with that, folks, I had a friend of mine who used it, and I'm as old as he is, or when he was back there. I swear to God, his hair was so dark, it was like a black hole, all right? No light would escape it, all right? It looked so unreal, okay? So, I don't know. No, I'm old, I know it, so that's okay. So niche marketing. So the individual sales approach is when you're going towards individuals, but it's the unique segments in itself. One-on-one marketing is when you are creating a whole new product out of cloth, all right? It is most common in luxury products or custom products that you're building from scratch. Oracle, when I when I was at Southern Miss, Oracle had written the student enrollment program that they used, and it was customized particularly towards Southern Miss. And it took a lot of work, okay? A lot of work to make it work. And that is an example of what one-on-one marketing is. It's really developed for that particular thing. Now, how do they get it right? Well, collecting data is enormously important for doing one-on-one marketing correctly. The preset to be able to build a product takes all of the effort and all of your assets to get it right. Because if you don't get it right, you're in real problems, okay? So one-on-one problem is creating an entirely unique product for each customer in the target market, individually. By the way, did anybody hear about that submarine? That's freaky, you know?
Have
Oh.
you found it yet?
No, I was looking at this morning. It's, things happen pretty fast when you're down that far. So anyway, my thoughts. I just was thinking of that. Mass customization is different because they build unique products and solutions on a mass scale. A mass scale. What does that mean? It means that the customers can choose from a variety of options, but the variety is localized to the ones that you have. And so an example are build computer systems like Build Redux, like Dell, Build-A-Bear. Those are examples. Burger King used to have a slogan, hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, special orders, don't upset us. All we ask is that you let us have it your way. I remember that. And I went, fine, give me spinach and avocado on it. Nope, not going to happen. Mass customization is anything you want, but it's going to be anything that we have. Okay. So that's what mass customization means. It's effective. The last is that we'll talk about is permission marketing, where you give the marketers permission to target you. Usually these have to do with opt-in mailing lists. This also shows that you already have had some particular interest in the product. So means that they're already pre-select when it comes to knowing who you are. And I personally hate the options that want me to put in my credit card before I have actually seen what you're going to deliver. But that's just me. And so, pardon me?
Isn't that just?
Not just me, so I'm not the only one? Good, I didn't know if I was alone or not. God, I get so sick of this. Anyway, these are the ways that you can segment the market. So what are how do we classify whether a segmentation is going to work or not? The first is we have to be able to know the segment size. We can measure it. We also have to know if it is substantial, if the size is worth your time and effort. One of the reasons that Skechers was never targeted before was because they quite simply thought the market wasn't big enough. It's just a bunch of kids, all right? How little they knew. Responsive means two things. It means that you can communicate with them, and it means that you can distribute to them. Both of those things. Interaction means both ways, okay? So it means being able to talk to them, show your benefits, and then be able to deliver the goods. Excuse me, that's accessible. My bad. Accessible is communicating and reaching. My bad, all right? Engaging in interactions means that as a corporation, I have to respond to changes in the market, that I can change my marketing behavior as the segment changes. And then finally, viable and sustainable mean two things. One of them is that I'm ready, willing, and able to do business. But the also is that the market is sustainable over time. I think that's one of the things. Krispy Kreme is, I think, one of those particular products that has difficulty when it comes to sustainability, because everyone likes a Krispy Kreme donut once, all right, in a year, maybe, or twice a year, a couple of three, all right, especially when it comes to the fresh ones. But the ability to sustain that kind of effort over time, I don't think, or I don't believe that, other than if you're a large enough size market, I'm not sure if that's possible, all right? Especially when you have other alternatives in a given town. I think Dunkin' provides more because Dunkin' provides a larger menu when it comes to those things besides just merely donuts. So we're going to talk segmenting, and we will talk strategies, and then we'll be done with this chapter. So how do we segment markets? We segment the markets by our consumers, what they do, who they are, how they think, and where they are. The strongest, the most powerful is behavior, because actual consumer behavior and the use of a product helps make big distinctions. It is also the most difficult because it is expensive and requires time to gather information. The key is understanding the needs and the benefits that are sought by particular groups. So, in terms of behavior, my number one snack right now is pecans. I'm eating eggs, like 6 a day. I'm eating a lot of chicken. So, what would you think I'm on right now? High protein, low carb, keto diet. And it's worked. In 2 years, I've lost 30 pounds. And in 2 months, I've lost 15. Okay. So it works. It does. I don't eat bread. Okay. In terms of carbs, I have less than 10 a day. Okay. It's a very distinct market. Okay. It means it requires discipline. But in terms of my behavioral, all right, my behavior is extremely important because guess what? There's gold in their heels. Okay. One of the big things, especially now, is finding bread substitutes or chip substitutes. And you find, those, especially in cauliflower, I've bought chips and they're delicious like that. So, what they're trying to do is trying to make me not change my normal eating behavior and make it within that same range. So that's an example of a behavioral expectation or a segmentation. It's difficult to understand, but if you got it, you can combine it with other segmentation variables and you can come up with a lot of success. The next is with demographics. All right. Well, demographics is basically, as it says, it is the demographic characteristics that define who our consumers are. It is generally the most widely used way to spit it out, because it's probably the most robust data that's collected. All right. If I want that information, generally I can find it on government sources. It's already extensive in its ability, and it costs me nothing to download. And so demographics are used quite a bit. The problem with demographics is it doesn't get down to the heart and soul of who I am. It doesn't say how I think, what I think, and it doesn't say who I am. And so ultimately, that's one of the most difficult things about just using demographic segmentation. Psychographic segmentation, especially when it's with behavioral segmentation, is some of the most powerful. As I've talked about it before, psychographic segmentation crosses all demographics. It groups together people on what's called the AIO, our attitudes, our interests, and our opinions. And so when I came up with that article that I showed you we did on tailgating, it's the classic example. Tailgating cuts across all barriers: age, gender, everything. We're all gathered there because we have one interest. And that's what psychographic research does. But it also can be difficult by itself as well. It's important to understand that the segmentations are necessary, but not necessarily sufficient without more information. The psychographic segmentation generally is done through either focus groups or ethnographic studies where you're just simply watching people doing their normal things that they do. And so they hung around with skateboarders, look at what they were doing, figured out, you know what? These people spend money like most everybody does. And they came up with an entire skateboarding culture. Surfing was the same way. You know, the things that are interesting. My daughter is in cheer. My God, what a money pit. And we went to a cheer competition in Charleston. And there were 6,000 girls there. It was just amazing to watch. And this is a very powerful segment as well. All of these, and it crosses all the lines, all right? This is an example. In once again, it brings everybody together in a common interest or attitudes. The last is demographic. It's why I like Blue Plate and why I keep my mouth shut whenever I'm around here when it comes to best mayonnaise, okay? Demographic, unique cultures and subcultures. All of those are very valuable. I grew up on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. I have a huge influence from New Orleans. We do Mardi Gras there. Mardi Gras is a state holiday, all right? But the interesting thing is the Mardi Gras that they do in New Orleans and Mobile is entirely different than the Mardi Gras that is done in small towns in Louisiana like Mamou and Church Point and all of those others. The Mardi Gras that there is done is what's called Carré de Mardi Gras, which is much more of the old time way that celebrations happened in Europe. Mardi Gras or Carnival means without meat. And so there's much more of a unique way in which Mardi Gras is celebrated just because it's in a different area. So just to give you an idea, hold on. So there's a company called Claritas that actually segments by zip code, and they have, I believe it's 149 different lifestyle segments just on zip codes, all right? So anybody got a zip code they would like me to put in, talk about the lifestyles of that group? 28117. Okay. So what's happening is it's going through their database, finding the individuals within that segment, and ultimately coming up with the 5 major groups. So they have Old Town Squires, Big Fish, Small Pond, Small Town Collegiates, Campers in Camo, and White Picket Fences. Would anybody like me to look up one of those and see what it means? Pardon me? Campers in Camo. Let's see who these people are. So, primarily found in small towns and less dedicated populated areas, campers and camo families enjoy the outdoors. They enjoy attending monster truck events and soccer matches, hockey games. Despite their age, they're below average in their use of technology, buy online, buy tickets, diet products, and read comics. So let's see. Their lifestyle and media traits: they own a Kia, they eat a Golden Corral, they shop at Torrid, interested in monster trucks, they stay at the Fairfield Inn, they watch Disney Junior and listen to mainstream rock. So this is close. Anybody got another zip code?
Only the US, or do they do Canada as well?
No, it's only United States zip codes. Prism is is actually was so valuable that, oh gosh, who was it? One of the groups bought it in whole cloth. I can't remember the name. Anybody got another zip code?
28607.
Us, all right. Who are we? Let's see who we are. All right, so it's going through the database. And it has Small Town Collegiates, Bedrock America, Golden Ponds, New Homesteaders, and Campers and Camo. Well, we know who they are. Who would you like me to look up? Golden Ponds. Let's see who the Golden Ponders are. So, Golden Ponds, mostly a retirement lifestyle dominated by lower mid-scale singles and couples over 55. Found in small bucolic towns around the country. These high school educated seniors live in small apartments, less than 30,000. It's a succession of sedentary activities such as reading the country sampler, watching INSP or news station, and so on. So, don't make this stuff up, folks, okay? They own the Ford, they eat at Cracker Barrel. They haven't shopped 3 months. They're interested in horse racing. Not planning to travel next year. They watch News Nation and listen to gospel, okay? Okay. So, any more? Just curious? Let's do one. Yeah, that's the one that everybody asked for, 90210. I was waiting for somebody to say that. Okay. So, which one of these groups do you want to know about? Let's go upper crust. Why not? Okay. So, the nation's most exclusive address, upper crust, is a haven for wealthy, empty nesting couples over the age of 65. This segment has a high concentration of residents earning 100,000 plus a year, and many possess postgraduate degrees. They have an opulent standard of living, driving expensive cars, frequently eating at upscale restaurants, and traveling to Europe. Okay, sounds like my wife. So lifestyle, we don't own a Lexus. They own a Lexus. They eat at the Bonefish Grill. They shop at Chico's. They contribute to public radio and television. They plan a tour group vacation. They watch the Golf Channel, and they listen to all news. Folks, it's accurate, okay? It sounds funny, but it's true, okay? So just look it up. If you ever want to find it, it's Claritas zip code lookup, all right? Gallup, that's it. Gallup Corporation found it so valuable that you can segment it through money down to neighborhoods, all right? And know exactly who exists on a given block. That's how amazing this stuff is. It's called PRISM, P-R-I-Z-M. If you get a question on it, it would be about geodemographics, okay? All right. So I can't make it up, folks. It's real. Okay. So I talked about geodemographics. You look at neighborhood profiles based upon geographics, okay, demographics, and lifestyle variables, and very closely can drill it down to the neighborhoods that you're looking for. Okay. So, what are the target marketing strategies? This is target marketing that we can use. There's really two variables. It's markets and products when it comes down to strategies. And depending on the capabilities of your particular company, these are the ways that you target market. The first is a single segment target. This is where all of your capabilities are tied to the needs of one specific market. This is the true specialist, all right? You have a complete understanding of your customer needs and your lifestyles. And you very much focus on quality and customer satisfaction. I find it interesting that they use Ray-Ban. I actually have a pair. Ray-Ban was going out of business. They were 6 months from bankruptcy. And then in 1988, 89, a movie came up. And this particular movie elevated Ray-Ban sales to the stratosphere.
For the ski business.
No,
Terminator.
no, but you got the right actor in the first one.
Oh, Top Gun.
Top Gun, yes. Top Gun took Ray-Ban sales and made them go through the ceiling. And that's why Ray-Bans are like $100 and $150 just for I have a basic pair, okay? I was Top Gun last year as my Halloween, but I did Top Gun Viper because that was my age group, okay? So, but I was trying to get a pair of fake Ray-Bans and I got the $138 pair and I went, you know, these are pretty cool. I'm gonna keep them. So I kept them. All right. A single segment. Okay. Selective targeting means that you have multiple capabilities in many product categories and you focus on those particular market segments. Diversification is the greatest value that it brings. You diversify by risk across multiple markets and across multiple products, and it helps you to do the best that you can achieve a general overall success. Procter & Gamble has 12 laundry detergents. And the reason that it has 12 laundry detergents is quite simply each one of those is a unique market. And each one of those unique markets responds to a different unique brand. Did you know, I mean, you would know because you're not in the baby stages yet, but the two major brands are Pampers and Luvs. And both of them are owned by Procter & Gamble. I mean, you would think that they were competing products, and the truth is that they do compete against each other, but Pampers is known for quality and Luvs is known for affordability. And you do that, and it gives you a broad market. General Electric, GE, had at one time when I was selling white goods, they had some of the best refrigerators ever made. Now, there was a competing brand called Hot Point, which was actually made in Hot Point, by the way. Hot Point was GE, but it was with steel shells or wire shells versus glass ones. The insides were exactly the same. If you wanted a quality at a reasonable cost, you got Hot Point. If you didn't think that the aesthetics valued to you, but this is a way that selective targeting increases your overall market coverage. Mass marketing, you're everywhere, okay? You target multiple markets, you serve all the customers' needs. And so Frito-Lay, across the brand spectrum, sell hundreds of snack foods, all the markets, all the segments. And so they basically, I don't want to carpet an area. That's a better way of saying it. And we come down to two final ones. Product specialization means that you're in multiple markets with one particular product. You adapt your product to meet multiple individual markets, and you invest in research and development on those particular products that you do so well. And so Littman stethoscopes is an example. Littman stethoscopes make stethoscopes for all kinds of humans and animals at the same time. They make stethoscopes for small animals, stethoscopes for big animals, for humans, for children. Everything. They focus on that one particular product and they adapt it across a wide market. You see this when I think of Arm and Hammer. I think of that in the same kind of way. They specialized on their particular product. But this is even more because it's one very specific product. It's stethoscopes for really one use, but it's across multiple markets. The last is you focus on one particular market and all of your products are devoted to that one particular market. And so the example, of course, in our industry is bookstores and educational products. Pearson can be an example for that. Now, of course, generally, market specialization usually is focused around a particular strategic business unit. So Pearson is publication in all form. But Pearson Education as a strategic business unit lives and exists only around the educational market. And so now, by the way, the big push is in the ebooks, and you know, there's something to be said for a book that you can hold in your lap. So I'm always holding out for books. And so these are the markets, or the ways that you can target: single, selective, mass, specializing by product, and specializing by market. Okay, we were flying through that. I apologize, I didn't have enough time for a break, but we're at the end of this chapter. If you have any questions, by the way, just make sure you get together, decide which case you wish. Send me your top three, and hopefully by tonight I'll send you which one you're going to do. Night, folks.